Step into a backyard where broken clocks bloom, suitcases overflow with wildflowers, and even an old bathtub becomes a koi pond. This isn't just gardening, it's pure transformation. Welcome to Mind Over Decoration, the channel where trash finds new life and gardens turn magical. In this video, I'll share 17 stunning DIY garden ideas, from fairy lanterns to pebble mosaics, that you can recreate with everyday items. Use the timestamps to jump to what inspires you most, and feel free to ask questions in the comments. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story, and a real family. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that button, you're not just supporting a channel. You're helping a dream stay alive. There's something magical about the way light transforms a garden. Imagine walking into your backyard just as twilight begins to settle. The air is warm, carrying the faint scent of lilies and roses. In the center of it all stands a rustic grapevine trellis, its woody arms stretching gracefully skyward, woven with tendrils of green and clusters of ripening grapes. But it's not just the trellis that captures your attention, it's the glow. Hanging gently from the vine-covered beams are dozens of mason jars, each transformed into a tiny lantern of wonder. Some jars shimmer with golden fairy lights, others sparkle in pastel-painted glass, casting lavender, mint, and pale yellow reflections across the garden floor. The jars swing ever so slightly with the breeze, scattering flecks of light like fireflies caught mid-dance. This creation isn't just decor, it's atmosphere. It tells a story of summer evenings stretched long, of laughter shared under the stars, of moments that feel timeless. The grapevine trellis frames the lanterns perfectly, as if nature itself wanted to build a stage for them. Beneath the arch, a pathway lined with violas and creeping thyme invites you to walk closer. Each step is accompanied by the soft crunch of gravel, the fragrance of blossoms, and the glow of flickering light. What makes this idea truly charming is its blend of rustic and whimsical. The mason jars, once ordinary kitchen staples, have been reborn as vessels of enchantment. The grapevine trellis, a symbol of old-world gardens, now carries not only fruit but also light, transforming the practical into the poetic. Together, they form an installation that is both inexpensive and unforgettable. DIY enthusiasts will love how approachable this project is. A few recycled jars, a string of affordable LED fairy lights, some paint for creative flair, and a trellis already present in many gardens, that's all it takes. The result is something that feels far beyond its humble parts, a centerpiece that looks like it belongs in the pages of a fairy tale. Picture yourself hosting friends in this space. As the evening unfolds, the lanterns glow brighter, their reflections captured in wine glasses and the sheen of leaves. Conversations soften, laughter echoes, and suddenly, your backyard feels like the most magical place in the world. That is the power of light. That is the charm of mason jar fairy lanterns with grapevine trellis glow. A pergola has always been a symbol of outdoor charm, a structure that creates shade, frames a view, and defines a garden's heart. But when you blend rustic wood with whimsical light, something extraordinary happens. Picture a summer evening where the sun has just dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky brushed in soft hues of lavender and pink. In the middle of your backyard stands a rustic pergola, sturdy and timeless, yet alive with enchantment. From its beams hang chandeliers made of mason jars, clustered together in artistic arrangements. Each jar glows with fairy lights, casting a golden shimmer across the wooden beams and the floor below. The glass catches reflections from surrounding flowers, creating tiny glimmers that dance with the movement of the evening breeze. Ivy and grapevines weave naturally across the pergola, softening the structure with leaves and tendrils. It feels like stepping into a page from an English vintage fairy tale. Beneath this glowing canopy sits a simple wooden table, perhaps set for tea or an intimate dinner. The air carries the scent of foxgloves and oriental lilies planted nearby, mingling with the earthy fragrance of grape leaves. Violas and pansies mark the borders, their vibrant tones playing in harmony with the pastel-painted jars. Every detail seems to whisper of comfort, magic, and a deep appreciation for simple beauty. What makes this DIY idea irresistible is how achievable it is, even on a budget. A few mason jars, recycled or picked up secondhand, paired with affordable fairy lights, become stunning chandeliers. The pergola itself can be a long-standing garden feature, but when paired with these glowing jars, it transforms into something unforgettable. No longer just a shaded frame, it becomes a destination, a stage for memories. Imagine hosting friends here on a summer night. Glasses clink softly under the chandeliers, conversations glow as warmly as the lights, and laughter echoes into the night. Children may point upward, marveling at how ordinary jars look like enchanted lanterns. Even when no one is present, the pergola remains a beacon of comfort, an invitation to sit, breathe, and soak in the gentle glow. This rustic pergola with mason jar chandeliers and fairy lights is not just decor. It's an experience, one that redefines your backyard as a sanctuary of light, beauty, and togetherness. With creativity and a touch of upcycling, you can bring this dream to life and watch your garden transform into a place where magic feels real. Time is fleeting, but in the garden, even broken things can tell new stories. Imagine stepping into a backyard where a vintage wooden fence, weathered by sun and rain, becomes the stage for an unusual centerpiece, a broken clock face transformed into a vertical succulent garden. Its hands no longer move, but life blooms from within. The rim of the clock, once forgotten and rusting, has been lovingly repainted in cheerful pastel tones, teal, lavender, and coral. Cracks that once symbolized were now cradle sedum and echeveria, their fleshy leaves spilling outward with charm. Tiny trailing succulents cascade from the numbers, softening the sharp edges of metal with a living tapestry of greens, silvers, and purples. The effect is mesmerizing. What once marked hours now measures growth. Behind it, the vintage fence becomes more than a boundary. It frames the clock with character, draped in ivy and climbing roses that weave stories of resilience. The nearby flower beds echo with foxgloves, pansies, and oriental lilies, their colors bright against the weathered wood. Beneath your feet, a pebble mosaic pathway leads to this focal point, almost as if the garden itself is guiding you to admire it. What makes this DIY idea so appealing is its symbolism. A broken clock could easily be trash, but in the hands of a creative gardener, it becomes art. Each succulent tucked into its crevice tells a story of patience and slow, steady growth. Unlike the ticking of a clock, these plants thrive in their own rhythm, reminding us that beauty often lies in the unexpected. The best part? It's surprisingly simple to create. A discarded wall clock, a handful of succulents, some potting soil, and a sturdy mount on a fence are all that's required. The result looks like something from a designer's portfolio but is achievable with upcycled materials and a free afternoon. Picture a summer evening when friends gather in your backyard. Their eyes are drawn to the unusual wall piece, and conversations bloom around it. Who would have thought a broken clock could be this beautiful, they might say. And in that moment, you realize this isn't just decoration, it's inspiration, a gentle reminder that with creativity, even discarded time can become timeless beauty. Some objects carry stories with them, and few do so as charmingly as a vintage suitcase. Imagine a suitcase that once traveled across cities and continents, now finding a new journey, not on rails or roads, but in a quiet backyard where it blooms with life. Set on a rustic wooden bench or nestled against a weathered fence, the old suitcase opens wide, its faded lining cradling a miniature meadow. Wildflowers burst forth, daisies with cheerful white petals, lavender swaying gently in the breeze, and bright poppies adding sparks of red. From its edges, creeping thyme spills gracefully, soft green tendrils flowing down like a natural waterfall. The suitcase looks less like a relic of the past and more like a treasure chest of blooms. The charm of this idea lies in its fusion of nostalgia and creativity. A suitcase represents journeys taken and memories held. By repurposing it into a planter, you're not only giving it a second life, you're writing a new chapter where adventure is found in soil and petals. Each flower seems to tell a story, lavender of calm, daisies of innocence, poppies of resilience. Together, they create a living diary that keeps growing with each season. Visually, the contrast is striking. The weathered leather or painted pastel surface of the suitcase plays against the vibrant colors of the blooms. Creeping thyme softens its edges, connecting the structured man-made form with the organic beauty of nature. Place it near a pebble pathway or beneath a grapevine-covered pergola, and it becomes an enchanting focal point that feels at once whimsical and deeply personal. What makes this DIY project so appealing is its accessibility. A discarded suitcase, a bit of soil, and a selection of hardy wildflowers are all you need. The suitcase doesn't even require perfection. Scratches, faded handles, or worn corners only add to its rustic charm. In fact, imperfections make it feel more authentic, more real. Picture sitting outdoors on a summer afternoon. Bees hum around the flowers, the thyme releases a soft fragrance under the sun, and passers-by pause to admire the unexpected beauty. Guests may smile and say, "I've never seen anything like this before." That's the magic, transforming something forgotten into something unforgettable. This vintage suitcase planter is more than decor. It's a reminder that every journey, no matter how old, can bloom again, with flowers as companions and gardens as the final destination. In the world of upcycling, some transformations feel like pure magic. Take, for example, the humble bathtub. Once an everyday household fixture, when retired and left unused, it might seem destined for the scrapyard. But with a touch of creativity, it becomes the heart of a garden, a pond alive with koi, lilies, and whispers of fairy tales. Imagine walking into your backyard on a warm summer evening. There, nestled among roses and foxgloves, rests a vintage clawfoot bathtub. Instead of soap and water, its basin glistens with clear pond water. Lily pads float gently across the surface, their green discs occasionally topped with delicate blossoms. Beneath them, koi glide gracefully, flashes of orange, gold, and white shimmering with each ripple. The edges of the tub are softened with moss and creeping thyme, while pastel paint breathes new life into its frame. Soft mint green or lavender hues contrast beautifully with the natural greenery around it. Tiny fairy figurines peek playfully from the rim, as if guarding this enchanted water garden. In the evening, fairy lights strung above cast a reflection across the water, doubling the glow and enhancing the illusion that magic truly dwells here. What makes this creation remarkable is its blend of whimsy and practicality. Bathtubs are deep enough to hold water and wide enough to create a mini ecosystem. By adding pond liner, aquatic plants, and koi, you've suddenly turned a forgotten relic into a self-sustaining world of life. The sight and sound of gently rippling water instantly bring peace, while the koi offer movement and vibrancy that captivate anyone who pauses to watch. And it isn't complicated to achieve. With just a weekend of effort, you can paint the tub, set it into place, and fill it with pond essentials. Add a small pump for circulation if you wish, and soon you'll have a backyard water feature that rivals those in luxury gardens, but at a fraction of the cost. Picture gathering friends on a summer night. They stop in their tracks, marveling at the transformation. "A bathtub, really?" They laugh, until the koi swim past and their laughter turns into awe. That is the beauty of this project, it surprises, delights, and leaves an impression long after the evening ends. The bathtub pond isn't just decor. It's a conversation starter, a fairy tale centerpiece, and a symbol of how imagination can turn even the most ordinary object into extraordinary beauty. Sometimes, the most ordinary objects can tell the most enchanting stories. Imagine old wooden drawers, once hidden in a forgotten dresser, now stacked together in the heart of a garden. Instead of socks or trinkets, they hold something far more magical: life, color, and charm. This creation, fondly called a mini bookshelf garden, turns drawers into planters, arranged playfully to mimic a stack of books in a cozy library. But instead of words on pages, each drawer overflows with petals and greenery. Petunias spill down in cascades of pink and purple. marigolds burst with golden cheer. Violas, delicate and vibrant, peek over the edges like curious readers peeking into a story. Creeping thyme trails gently, softening every corner with fragrant green tendrils. The drawers themselves are part of the art. Painted in pastel hues, mint, lavender, peach, they add a vintage charm that feels right at home in an English-style backyard. The handles aren't forgotten either. Some are repurposed as tiny hooks for hanging miniature tools or fairy trinkets, making the structure even more whimsical. Placed against a rustic wooden fence or near a gravel pathway, this stacked arrangement becomes more than decor, it's an invitation to pause. Guests may stop and smile, tilting their heads as if reading a story from nature itself. At twilight, with fairy lights woven gently among the plants, the bookshelf garden glows softly, creating the perfect backdrop for quiet evenings outdoors. The magic of this DIY idea lies not only in its beauty but in its accessibility. Anyone can gather old drawers, whether from discarded furniture, flea markets, or garage sales, and transform them with a splash of paint and a bit of soil. The stacking doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, the playful asymmetry adds to the whimsical charm. Imagine hosting a summer gathering where children run up to peer into the drawers, pointing out flowers as if discovering new chapters in a book. Adults, too, pause and say, "I've never thought of using drawers like this." That spark of surprise is the heart of upcycling, turning the ordinary into extraordinary. A mini bookshelf garden of drawers is more than a planter. It's a story told in blooms and colors, a reminder that beauty doesn't come from perfection but from creativity. And in your backyard, it becomes a tale that keeps growing, season after season. Not every garden has the luxury of space, yet even the smallest corners can be turned into a feast for the eyes and the taste buds. Imagine walking into your backyard and seeing strawberries, not growing low to the ground, but cascading from above, tier by tier. This is the beauty of a vertical strawberry tower made from simple rain gutters. Each gutter, once a humble tool for channeling rain, has been painted in cheerful pastel tones, mint green, soft pink, pale yellow. Stacked vertically, they form a tower of abundance. From the openings, strawberry plants spill outward, their bright green leaves contrasting with the vivid red of ripened fruit. Small white blossoms peek through, promising more berries to come. Placed near a rustic wooden fence or beside a grapevine-covered pergola, the strawberry tower becomes both practical and beautiful. It maximizes space, perfect for smaller backyards or patios, while doubling as a striking decorative feature. At the base, a pebble pathway and creeping thyme soften the look, connecting the structure seamlessly into the garden's rhythm. In the evening, a wrap of fairy string lights makes the tower glow, transforming it into both a harvest station and a centerpiece of charm. This DIY idea embodies the best of upcycling, taking something ordinary, even overlooked, and giving it a second life. Rain gutters are inexpensive, often discarded, yet when arranged thoughtfully, they create vertical gardens that rival designer installations. And strawberries, with their sweet flavor and visual appeal, are the perfect choice for such a display. The practicality is just as impressive as the aesthetics. Vertical towers make harvesting easy, reduce the need for weeding, and keep fruit off the ground, safe from pests. They also allow gardeners to grow more in less space, making them ideal for urban yards or cozy patios. Picture summer mornings where you step outside, basket in hand, to pick fresh strawberries for breakfast. The air smells faintly of flowers and herbs, while children delight in plucking berries straight from the vine. Guests marvel at the ingenuity, saying, "Rain gutters? Who would have thought?" Their surprise quickly turns to admiration as they savor the sweetness. A vertical strawberry tower isn't just a clever garden hack. It's a marriage of function and beauty, a proof that even scraps can become spectacular. With each ripe berry, you taste the reward of creativity, and the joy of a garden that gives back more than it takes. There's something captivating about the image of a window, an opening that connects one world to another. Now imagine taking an old, discarded window frame, giving it new life with a splash of pastel paint, and setting it in your garden. It no longer looks out onto a street or field, but instead frames something even more timeless: roses in full bloom. Picture a rustic wooden frame, its once faded paint now refreshed in soft tones of mint, lavender, or pale yellow. Set upright in the garden, it becomes a trellis for climbing roses. Vines curl gently through its panes, blossoms unfurling across the wood as if nature itself decided to decorate. Pink and white roses spill across the frame, their fragrance carried on the warm summer breeze. With every glance, the frame feels less like a forgotten object and more like a portal into a fairy tale. Placed against a fence or near a pathway, the trellis adds height and structure to the garden, while still feeling whimsical and light. At twilight, when fairy lights are draped through its edges, the frame glows softly, making the roses shimmer like jewels. Guests might pause and ask, "Why a window in the garden?" And as they step closer, they'll understand, it's not about looking through, but about looking at beauty, at transformation, at the simple joy of flowers finding their way. The best part is how achievable it is. Old window frames are easy to find at flea markets, salvage yards, or even curbside giveaways. With a bit of sanding, pastel paint, and sealing, they're ready to be reborn. The roses, once planted, do the rest, weaving themselves naturally into the wood. Over time, the trellis becomes more than decor, it becomes a living sculpture. This project isn't just about repurposing, it's about storytelling. The window frame once opened into a home. Now it opens into a garden. It represents continuity, memory, and imagination. Every bloom that climbs its edges tells a story of resilience and rebirth. On summer evenings, imagine sitting nearby with a cup of tea, the scent of roses mingling with the earthy aroma of thyme and violas at your feet. The frame stands tall, its blossoms catching the fading light, a reminder that beauty is always waiting, sometimes just on the other side of an old window. In the world of garden creativity, few transformations capture attention as powerfully as turning old tires into works of art. Imagine walking into a backyard where, instead of discarded rubber, you find butterflies resting gently on the earth, each one blooming with flowers. That's the magic of butterfly-shaped tire flower beds. Once a symbol of wear and dust, these tires are reborn through color and imagination. Carefully cut and shaped, they spread outward like butterfly wings. Each curve is painted in cheerful hues: sky blue, sunny yellow, coral pink, and mint green, creating a playful palette that instantly draws the eye. Within the wings, soil cradles an explosion of flowers. Petunias spill over the edges in pinks and purples. Marigolds shine like miniature suns. Pansies nod cheerfully, adding dashes of violet and white. Together, they transform the tires into living sculptures of flight and color. Placed along a pebble pathway or in a corner of the lawn, the butterfly beds invite admiration and curiosity. Children are especially enchanted, often running up to trace the painted wings with their fingers. At twilight, fairy lights wrapped around the edges make them glow, giving the illusion that the butterflies might flutter away into the evening air. The brilliance of this DIY project lies in its accessibility. Tires, often seen as waste, are easy to source. With a bit of cutting, sanding, and painting, they evolve into something both beautiful and durable. Unlike fragile planters, these tire creations withstand seasons, holding soil and flowers securely while providing an eye-catching focal point. Symbolically, butterflies represent transformation, and here, they embody it fully. Tires once destined for the landfill become vibrant life givers, supporting blossoms and greenery. The message is clear: nothing is truly waste if we look at it differently. Picture hosting a summer gathering where guests marvel at your garden. They stop by the butterfly beds, smiling as they realize what they're made from. "These are tires?" they ask in disbelief, and you nod with pride. That moment of surprise is the essence of upcycling, turning the unexpected into beauty. A butterfly tire flower bed is more than just a planter. It's a statement of creativity, a celebration of transformation, and a splash of joy that makes every backyard feel like a whimsical haven. Privacy in a garden doesn't have to mean plain walls or dull partitions. Sometimes, the very structure that separates one space from another can become the most eye-catching feature. That's the beauty of a bamboo privacy fence decorated with painted bottle mosaics, where function meets artistry in the most whimsical way. Imagine a tall fence made of natural bamboo poles, their golden tones bringing warmth and texture to the backyard. Now picture sections of that fence adorned with colorful mosaics crafted from painted glass bottle bottoms. Arranged into patterns of flowers, suns, or butterflies, these glass pieces transform the fence into a stained glass masterpiece. As sunlight filters through, the colors glow vividly, scattering jewel-like reflections across the garden floor. By day, the fence sparkles with natural light, casting playful shadows on nearby violas and creeping thyme. By night, fairy lights woven through the bamboo bring the mosaics to life once again, turning the entire structure into a glowing artwork under the stars. Guests are drawn to it instinctively, pausing to trace the outlines of butterflies or flowers shining through the glass. What makes this idea especially inspiring is how sustainable it is. Bamboo, fast-growing and renewable, serves as a strong yet eco-friendly base. Glass bottles, often discarded, become treasures when painted and repurposed. Together, they embody the essence of upcycling, taking simple, overlooked materials and reshaping them into something extraordinary. The process is surprisingly accessible. Bamboo poles can be arranged into panels, while bottle bottoms are cut, painted, and fitted securely within. Creativity has no limit here. You can design mosaics that echo garden themes, geometric shapes, or even personal motifs. Each finished panel becomes both a screen of privacy and a piece of outdoor art. Symbolically, this fence tells a story. It speaks of balance, between utility and beauty, between structure and imagination, between sustainability and style. It reminds us that the barriers we build can also be openings for creativity. Picture a summer evening when you and your guests sit nearby. As the sun lowers, beams of golden light pass through the mosaics, painting the garden in colors that shift with every breeze. Conversations pause, replaced by quiet admiration. In that moment, your fence is no longer just a divider, it's a canvas, glowing with the spirit of creativity. A bamboo privacy fence with bottle mosaics proves that boundaries can be beautiful. More than that, it shows how even the simplest materials can create magic when touched by imagination. Not every garden feature needs to be elaborate to be enchanting. Sometimes, the most charming accents come from the simplest objects, given a second chance. Picture an old wooden ladder, worn smooth by years of use, now leaning gracefully against a rustic fence. But instead of tools or paint cans, it holds life, herbs and flowers spilling from its rungs. Each step of the ladder becomes a stage. Small pots of basil, thyme, and rosemary sit neatly, releasing their scents into the warm summer air. As you climb upward with your gaze, trailing petunias cascade down like a living waterfall, their blossoms painting the wood with shades of purple, pink, and white. The rustic charm of the ladder contrasts beautifully with the lush vibrancy of plants, creating a perfect blend of vintage and living art. Placed in a corner of the garden or along a pathway, the ladder shelf is both practical and whimsical. It makes herbs easy to harvest while adding height and visual interest. At twilight, fairy lights wrapped gently around the ladder glow softly, transforming it from a daytime garden accent into a magical evening centerpiece. Guests might pause to run their hands along the smooth wood, smiling at the creativity of turning something so ordinary into something unforgettable. The beauty of this idea lies in its accessibility. Old ladders are often overlooked or discarded, yet with just a little imagination, they become elegant vertical gardens. You don't need expensive materials, just pots, soil, and a touch of creativity. Even imperfections in the ladder, such as scratches or faded paint, add to its rustic character. Symbolically, the ladder represents growth, climbing upward toward light. Here, it becomes a metaphor made real, plants literally rising step by step. It's a visual story of progress and resilience, of nature adapting to new forms. Imagine stepping outside on a summer evening. The scent of herbs mingles with the sweetness of petunias. Fairy lights twinkle against the wood, casting warm glows across the garden. Friends and family notice immediately, asking how you thought of such a thing. And with a smile, you explain, it was just an old ladder. Yet in truth, it's more than that. It's proof that beauty doesn't always require new beginnings, sometimes it just requires seeing the old with fresh eyes. has a way of transforming a garden. Its gentle sound softens the air, while its shimmer catches the light and draws the eye. Now imagine creating that beauty not from expensive stone fountains, but from something as humble as old buckets. That's the magic of a bucket fountain surrounded by foxgloves and lilies. In the heart of the garden, a series of galvanized buckets are stacked playfully, angled so that water flows gracefully from one to the next. Each bucket tells a story of its past, once used for carrying, storing, or cleaning, but now, repainted in soft pastel shades, they become vessels of tranquility. Sky blue, lavender, and pale mint hues give them a cheerful charm, their weathered edges softened by new purpose. Around the fountain, foxgloves rise tall, their elegant spires reaching toward the sky. Beside them, oriental lilies open wide, their fragrance rich and intoxicating. Together, they frame the fountain as if nature itself wanted to spotlight its new role. The sound of water mingles with birdsong, creating a soundtrack of calm for anyone who pauses nearby. By day, the fountain glitters in sunlight, droplets sparkling as they tumble from tier to tier. By night, hidden lights beneath the water give it a glow, turning the feature into a beacon of magic in the twilight. Guests who wander past cannot help but stop, mesmerized by the simple yet captivating beauty. What makes this DIY project so appealing is its balance of simplicity and elegance. Buckets are easy to find, often already on hand in sheds or garages. With a pump, some careful stacking, and a creative eye, they transform into a fountain that rivals expensive garden centerpieces. Add a circle of pebbles at the base and creeping thyme weaving between, and the installation feels complete, grounded yet graceful. Symbolically, the fountain represents renewal. Buckets once used for work now carry water for beauty, a reminder that transformation doesn't erase the past but builds upon it. Imagine a summer evening when you sit nearby, the air scented with lilies and damp earth. The water's gentle trickle soothes your thoughts, while fireflies and fairy lights echo its sparkle. In that moment, your garden feels alive, not just with plants, but with movement, sound, and magic. The bucket fountain proves that elegance doesn't have to come with a price. With imagination, even the simplest tools can become timeless treasures. Gardens are often about perception, how we see space, light, and beauty. With a simple mirror, that perception can be transformed. Imagine stepping into your backyard and finding not just flowers and paths, but a reflection that makes the garden appear twice as large, framed in nature's own artistry. A rustic mirror hangs against a wooden fence, its frame weathered with age but refreshed in soft pastel tones. Mint green, faded lavender, or pale cream bring it a gentle vintage charm. Across the frame, grapevines climb gracefully, weaving tendrils of green and clusters of ripening grapes around the glass. The mirror doesn't stand alone, it blends seamlessly, as if it were a window into a secret extension of the garden. In its reflection, foxgloves, lilies, and roses appear doubled, creating the illusion of endless borders. The trick of the mirror is subtle yet powerful. What once was a modest corner now feels expansive, alive with depth. At twilight, fairy string lights draped above twinkle in the mirror's glass, amplifying their glow. The scene feels like stepping into a fairy tale, where boundaries blur and everything seems possible. The magic of this project lies not only in its effect but in its simplicity. Mirrors are often discarded or overlooked, yet when mounted outdoors and framed with plants, they become captivating illusions. Grapevines, with their twisting forms and broad leaves, provide the perfect natural embellishment, softening edges and merging reflection with reality. Symbolically, the mirror speaks of perspective. It reminds us that gardens are not just about space, but about how we experience it. With creativity, even the smallest area can feel abundant, even the simplest view can appear extraordinary. Imagine a summer afternoon when friends visit. Their laughter pauses as they catch sight of the mirror. "Is that another part of the garden?" someone asks, stepping closer. Only then do they realize it's a reflection, and their surprise turns into delight. Children may wave at their mirrored selves, while adults admire the artistry of blending glass and vine. By evening, when the grape clusters catch the last of the sunlight and fairy lights sparkle across the mirror, the illusion becomes complete. The garden feels infinite, alive with beauty in every direction. A mirror framed with grapevines is more than decor. It's a window to possibility, a gentle trick of the eye that deepens the magic of a backyard. A garden is not only about the plants it holds, but also the paths that guide us through them. Imagine walking barefoot across a mosaic of pebbles, each step connecting you to the earth, each pattern telling a story. And at the end of this path, a circle of tire planters bursts with color and life, creating a destination worth every step. The pathway is crafted from pebbles arranged in intricate designs, spirals that suggest motion, sunbursts that radiate warmth, or floral shapes that echo the blooms beyond. Smooth stones in shades of white, gray, and pastel create a canvas that feels both artistic and timeless. Sunlight catches their polished surfaces, making the ground itself shimmer as if it were alive. At the end of this walkway, a ring of old tires awaits, each one transformed with paint and imagination. Once dark and heavy, they now glow in pastel hues: sky blue, coral pink, sunshine yellow, mint green. From each planter, flowers spill outward, marigolds like little suns, petunias in cascades of purple, pansies nodding with cheerful faces. The circle feels ceremonial, as if the flowers themselves were gathering to welcome you. By day, the pathway invites exploration, its designs drawing the eye forward. By night, small solar lights nestled between the pebbles glow softly, illuminating the way like stars fallen to the earth. The circle of planters becomes a focal point under the twilight sky, their painted colors highlighted by fairy lights strung across nearby grapevines. What makes this idea so captivating is how it blends two simple elements, stones and tires, into something extraordinary. Pebbles, abundant and humble, are elevated into art. Tires, once discarded, become vessels of life and color. Together, they transform a backyard into a gallery of creativity under open skies. It's a DIY project that feels approachable yet impressive. With patience, you can lay the pathway stone by stone, creating patterns unique to your vision. The tires, painted and filled with flowers, complete the journey, ensuring that each step taken leads to delight. Picture inviting friends over. Their eyes follow the mosaic beneath their feet, curiosity building with each design. When they reach the tire circle, they pause, captivated by its unexpected beauty. Laughter, admiration, and perhaps even inspiration follow. The Pebble mosaic pathway and tire planter circle are more than garden decor. They are an experience, a journey from ordinary to extraordinary, guided by imagination and love for nature. Not all garden planters need to be fancy pots or expensive containers. Sometimes, the most unexpected items bring the most charm. Picture an old kitchen colander, once used to drain pasta or vegetables, now hanging proudly from a pergola beam as a planter, transformed into a cascade of color and life. In this whimsical design, a rustic wooden pergola becomes the stage. From its sturdy beams dangle colanders, each one painted in soft pastel shades of mint green, coral pink, or lavender purple. The perforated holes, once practical for draining water, now allow trailing plants to spill gracefully downward, creating a natural waterfall of greenery. Above, the bowls overflow with bright blooms, petunias in rich purples, pansies in golden yellows, and violas in delicate pinks. The entire arrangement feels playful yet enchanting, as though the garden has borrowed a touch of kitchen magic. By day, the colanders swing gently in the summer breeze, scattering petals and fragrance into the air. By night, fairy lights strung along the pergola cast a warm glow, highlighting the planters like lanterns of living color. Guests walking beneath the pergola cannot help but look up, smiling at the surprising sight of everyday kitchenware reborn as garden treasures. What makes this project so delightful is its simplicity and humor. Colanders are often discarded when their handles rust or their surfaces dull. Yet here, with a splash of paint and a bit of imagination, they become whimsical statement pieces. They're lightweight, easy to hang, and naturally suited for drainage, making them perfect planters without any extra work. Symbolically, these colander planters remind us that beauty is often hidden in plain sight. They prove that creativity can bridge the gap between the practical and the poetic. A tool once confined to kitchens now contributes to the garden's artistry, blurring the line between indoors and outdoors, utility and beauty. Imagine a summer afternoon gathering, where friends pause under the pergola. Someone chuckles in surprise, "Are those colanders?" The laughter quickly turns into admiration as they see the flowers thriving within them. It's this mix of surprise and delight that makes the idea unforgettable. Hanging colander planters bring a sense of joy and whimsy into the garden, proving that sometimes the most magical creations are born not from new purchases, but from reimagining what we already have. Gardens thrive not only on plants but also on imagination. And sometimes, the smallest touches bring the most delight. Painted stone markers with fairy garden characters are a perfect example, ordinary river stones turned into tiny storytellers that guide the way through blooms and borders. Imagine strolling along a flower bed in a warm summer garden. At your feet, nestled among creeping thyme and violas, sit smooth stones, each painted with whimsical scenes. One stone shows a fairy with delicate wings hovering over a mushroom. Another depicts a jolly gnome carrying a watering can. Others feature toadstools, butterflies, or sparkling stars. Together, they form a trail of wonder, each stone inviting you to pause and smile. These markers aren't just decorative. They can serve practical purposes, too, labeling herbs, dividing garden sections, or outlining a pathway. Yet their real magic lies in how they transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. What was once a plain stone now becomes part of a fairy tale, blending storytelling with gardening. The creation process is accessible to anyone. Smooth river stones can be collected or purchased cheaply. Acrylic paints in bright or pastel shades bring the characters to life, while a clear seal ensures they withstand the weather. The designs don't need to be perfect. In fact, their hand-painted charm adds to the whimsy. Each stone is unique, reflecting the creativity of its maker. Placed strategically along borders, these painted stones create rhythm and color, guiding the eye while grounding the garden with playful details. At twilight, when fairy lights weave through the flowers and the painted stones catch the glow, the scene feels like stepping into an enchanted storybook. Children may crouch down to trace the figures, inventing tales of fairies and gnomes who live among the blooms. Adults, too, can't help but smile at the innocence and creativity embodied in such a simple feature. Symbolically, these stones remind us of the value of imagination. They prove that even the smallest elements can carry big stories and transform spaces. A stone by itself is just weight and silence, but painted with care, it becomes a keeper of dreams. On a summer evening, as you walk past your garden bed, these fairy stone markers will whisper back to you. The garden is not only a place to grow, it's a place to dream. Sometimes the simplest ideas bring the most joy, and gift wrap pot covers are the perfect example. Imagine stepping into a backyard where ordinary flower pots have been transformed into festive treasures, wrapped like presents waiting to be opened. They don't just hold flowers, they hold surprise, delight, and celebration. Picture terracotta pots dressed in cheerful gift wrap, each one a burst of color and pattern. Some shimmer in pastel tones of mint, lavender, and peach, tied neatly with satin ribbons. Others dazzle with holiday prints, stars, stripes, or floral motifs. The wraps hug the pots tightly, their glossy finishes catching sunlight by day and fairy lights by night. Inside, flowers bloom brightly, their colors amplified by the joyful coverings around them. Pansies nod in purple and gold, dianthus spark in red and pink, and violas spill cheerfully over the edges. Placed along a rustic wooden table, these wrapped pots instantly become the heart of a backyard party. They look like gifts nature has delivered, living bouquets waiting to be admired. Around them, climbing roses and grapevines complete the festive atmosphere, blending whimsy with elegance. Guests can't help but pause, drawn to the unexpected playfulness of such a simple detail. The beauty of this DIY idea is its accessibility. Wrapping paper is inexpensive and easy to find, and it can be changed seasonally or even for specific events. A birthday dinner, a summer garden party, or even a casual family gathering becomes instantly more vibrant when flower pots are dressed like presents. For added charm, ribbons, bows, or recycled fabric strips can be used, giving each pot its own unique personality. Symbolically, these wrapped pots remind us that beauty is a gift, one we can both create and share. They encourage us to see the ordinary not as dull, but as an opportunity for delight. A plain pot is no longer just a container, wrapped in care, it becomes a gesture of creativity, a statement that says, even the simplest things can be special. As twilight falls, fairy lights twinkle overhead, their glow reflecting off the shiny wraps. The pots gleam softly, like lanterns celebrating the season. Friends gather around, smiling at the festive touch, perhaps even inspired to bring the idea into their own homes. Gift wrap pot covers prove that magic doesn't need to be complicated. Sometimes, it's as simple as giving what you already have a new look, and watching how it makes everyone around you feel just a little more joyful. And that's the end of today's journey through 17 incredible trash-to-treasure garden ideas. I hope you found inspiration to turn the simplest objects into enchanting outdoor decor. Which idea spoke to you the most? The suitcase planter, the bucket fountain, or maybe the butterfly tire beds? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts and see what you'll try in your own garden. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, share it with friends, and subscribe for more creative garden transformations. Thank you for watching, for supporting a small family, and for keeping this dream alive. Until next time, keep creating, keep blooming, and keep turning trash into treasures.